Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get these podcasts. Go ahead and do it. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars, 4 stars, all for haters. I don't know if you guys have heard, but I got a new television show that's coming up on June the 4th. It is called High Noon, parentheses, 9 a.m. Pacific. With my buddy Pablo Torre, who is here in the studio with us, because when you got a new TV show coming up, you try to have your co-host on as a guest on your podcast, because if he's not worth being a guest on your podcast, how's he a guest on your television show?
We've been hanging out for 6 straight hours.
That's a good point. Well, hold on, not hanging out. Working.
Yeah. We are working. See, that's the great sign of a good show, Bomani.
Yes.
Is that it didn't even feel like work.
Yep.
We've been hanging out.
And I didn't have to go to lunch with you, but I did it anyway.
We did.
I even paid.
Yeah. And then you reminded me, perhaps inadvertently, that your one rule on loans is don't disappear on me.
Yeah, that's it. But don't be like showing up late to work and not talking to me because of that $25 or something like that, that it came down to. Now, we will talk more about the upcoming television show. We may talk a little bit about the rap beef at some point. But, as we begin this,
Say it. Just say it.
You're one of those process dorks, man.
I am I'm a literal priest.
You were invited to officiate a wedding of a couple of process dorks.
I am a priest, a minister, an ordained minister in the Church of the Process. I have a certification from, I believe it is, I should know the name, but I believe it is the Universal Life Church. And I officiated a wedding at the lottery party that happened this month.
And that's how invested you were in that process.
They just love my sermons. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you're one of those guys, you're big on Sam Hinkie. That's your man. Sam Hinkie is your man.
Yes, he is not my man's in the sense that we have a deep friendship, but he is my man's in the sense that I feel like I am his primary public defender.
Does he return your phone calls?
He does.
That's your man's.
Okay.
So, anyway.
More texts.
Yeah, but you guys who have Sam Hinkie as your mans are typically not on board with this Brian Colangelo thing. And Brian Colangelo, of course, as you've heard, has gotten caught with all these text messages, all these comments and tweets that he's been sending. Well, not him. We don't know if it was him necessarily, but somebody that was very close to Brian Colangelo. There's reason to believe that maybe it's him. There's reason to believe that maybe it's his wife. There's reason to believe that maybe it's both of them. But they out here spreading company business, talking about people failing physicals, trashing Joel Embiid, dogging out the people around Markelle Fultz, basically dogging everyone that's making Brian Colangelo look bad. Or people he can't claim credit for.
I think the idea that there is a distinction between Brian Colangelo and not Brian Colangelo when it comes to these burner accounts is kind of the question we have in front of us today. But at the same time, it is totally irrelevant for the very reason that you and I have been referring to this as the Brian Colangelo story.
Yeah, it don't matter. Look, you and your queen are the same person at this point. If you go home after work and you tell your queen all these things about what's going on at work, and then your queen tell the world, you told the world. You tell anybody all your business, and it comes back to you and the company's business. Then it's effectively the same as if you did it. Period.
Is there a reasonable expectation that Brian Colangelo, not only GM, but team president, a guy has the word president in his title, there are other obligations that I think are important to meet. Does he have an obligation to not have his wife do this?
Yes.
And I think the answer is yes.
I think there's no question that he has an obligation. Like I say again, it doesn't matter who the person is. If they don't work for the Sixers and they run and tell this stuff and it came from you, then it's on you. And that's even before we get to how horribly embarrassing this is for the franchise. And we got to get to that
because that's where so much of this delight, unfortunately, comes from.
It's so embarrassing for the franchise that this has happened. So, and we've talked about this, but this is the part that I find interesting about it is not even so much the stuff that he's saying about the Sixers. It's about the fact that he can't let it go that he got fired in Toronto. He's trying to claim credit for anything good that happened in Toronto and wants to dog Masai Ujiri for anything else that has happened under these anonymous names.
Allegedly.
This is what he is doing. This is like every level of some place that he feels he has not gotten enough credit.
But look at the work that the word allegedly is doing, because regardless, the opinions we're reading, I think it is safe to deduce, are Brian Colangelo's. Now, we don't know that for a fact, but we can certainly connect enough dots and say that his wife's thoughts would not contravene his.
Right. Even if they're not his, it's impossible to say that his wife's thoughts would not be heavily colored by his thoughts, because how the hell would she know?
The information, right? It's the inside information that he was sharing about medical stuff, which is, I think, genuinely fireable in a vacuum, but also in the context of relationships that are clearly, Bo, already frayed, right?
Yes.
Like Markelle Fultz, Joel Embiid, And now those guys are seeing his wife or someone else express opinions that deeply remind them of positions that they believe Bryan Colangelo holds.
Yes.
So can he do his job from here effectively? No. No, for reasons that I think are fair ultimately to Bryan Colangelo, even if he is not the one who is operating these accounts, which is a hard pill to swallow, I understand, but you have to understand how human beings process this story.
He just looks,
pun intended.
Yeah, he just looks like a fool. Like, in the end, he looks like a fool.
Not presidential.
No.
Or generally good at managing.
No, he just looks like a fool. And all this, because as I've said before, what I don't understand in this is whatever happened to leaking information the good old fashioned way. Like, because that's all this stuff was really leaks, and he was hitting media members with a lot of these. But they're not going to get it. You're not going to get any attention like that doing it from an egg account. So why didn't you just leak this stuff like everybody else does? Now, I did see Derek Bodner, who writes for The Athletic,
I know Derek,
say that all the things that he was reading all were things that if you dealt with people who work for the Sixers, you had been told in off-record settings.
Yep.
How could they never get any of this?
I can confirm.
But how could they never get any of this stuff into the newspaper or onto the website? Like, how did it get to the point that Bryan Colangelo was so desperate to have this, allegedly, to have this heard that he had to go to the burner?
Well, I think Bryan Colangelo could have leaked, but in defense of the army of dorks, he also could have made a friend. He also could have befriended, like, I feel like Bryan Colangelo, it's stunning how few supporters he has, right? So what I'm really getting at is Bryan Colangelo in this circumstance does not have anybody defending him. And so when it comes to talking about the things that Bryan Colangelo allegedly has done, we're working with a picture that's already negative. Like, if this was Danny Ainge, right, we would be talking about this story very differently. Media members, fans, because he has a resume and because he has allies. Bryan Colangelo, he, as I said to you on the walkover here, he needs more people.
Yeah, well, the reason that Danny Ainge could be in a different situation because he has allies is if Danny Ainge wanted to push the story that he had nothing to do with this, which is the story that Bryan Colangelo is pushing, which is horribly implausible, there would be more people willing to ride out on the maybe Danny's telling the truth program. The only reason that people as of now are riding out on the maybe Bryan Colangelo is telling the truth program is because they find it to be so absurd that someone would do this in the first place. Therefore, they give him the benefit of the doubt. And I feel like I've been living long enough and seen enough in this world to understand if there's one thing I will never say again is ain't nobody too stupid to do something. Ain't nobody too smart to do something. Right? Like, nah, no one would ever do anything that stupid. No one would ever do anything that reckless. Somebody did something that reckless here. Like, I can't say he couldn't. I can't say he didn't do it because nobody would. People do stuff all the time.
And specifically on this platform.
Yes.
All sorts of powerful, influential people who do not ever need to be here on this platform get in trouble for various things on this platform that did not need to happen. There is something about the fact that we are, I think, neurologically addicted to this stuff that I think, and in this case, I'm not even talking about Bryan Colangelo. I'm talking about his wife as well. Like, why would you feel the need to do this?
Yeah, I do not. I personally do not understand the satisfaction that you receive by putting on a mask. Because that's basically what you're doing, right? So you put on a mask and then you go say all the things that you really want to say. But it doesn't hit like you said it because you're wearing a mask. Right? Like the level of satisfaction that is derived from this. Like when Kevin Durant gets in there and starts fighting people under the burner accounts and comments. I personally do not understand how it feels good to do those things with no name on it.
It feels cathartic. It must feel like a release to some people. That's my only.
But this dude was going. But this dude, and then we find out, or it looks like, dude was going on blogs under names and doing these things, allegedly.
But,
by the way, can he just hurry up and come say he did it, even if maybe he didn't do it, so I can stop saying allegedly?
This is where some of the fun is, because in talking to people who know things around the league, talking to people who otherwise know things in reference to this subject matter, they are learning this stuff on Twitter. They are watching the soap opera play out on NBA Twitter, where a bunch of people have successfully auditioned for the job of internet detective.
Yes.
It seems to be laid out kind of clearly what, at the very least, the, worst case scenario is. And in that scenario, Brian Colangelo loses his job, but also a bunch of lawyers that the Sixers have just now hired are saved a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, what are the lawyers going to do here, right? Like, all of this is what you got. All you can hope for is that you get Brian Colangelo in a room and you can make him crack, right? Like, that's the only game for this, because the investigating has been done. Right, like maybe they go.
I like the double-sided glass.
Yeah. Like maybe they trying to get some IP addresses or something like that. Like maybe that's what they're going to do. Try to get some geotags.
But the shared, but it's a couple.
Yeah, but even still, but some of the geotags, if they could get geotags on tweets, then maybe they can place, whatever. Like maybe that's the way that they're going to do this.
There is more geotagging in the world than I appreciate.
Yeah, but in the end, man, Brian Colangelo really got two options here, assuming that he has some culpability in this. And if he didn't have any culpability in this, fine. He still only got two options. Either tell on himself or ride this out as far as he can until he gets fired, right? Like those are the two plays that he has. Tell on himself guarantees getting fired. Therefore, he is taking the play that gives some possibility that maybe, just maybe, he can keep his job. And so he's just going to ride this thing out. And they got to find somebody that can come in there and give him some stern looks and hope to catch him in some little small lie that makes everything come apart, and then maybe he cracks and maybe he tells you the whole story. Because I don't feel like second generation money is built to handle that kind of scrutiny. Because in the end, Brian Colangelo is another story that happens all the time in sports, which is second generation money. There's a difference between the people who earn that bread, like for real on the first hand, and then the guys who come up after and get some of the advantages that are created by what came first. So his dad, Jerry Colangelo, founder of the Suns,
head of USA
basketball, right? Like all of these things.
The first family of the NBA.
Yes. And Brian Colangelo, I think it's fair to say, has gotten a lot of what he's gotten on the basis of the fact that his last name is Colangelo. Those cats, though, they never feel like, or they rarely feel like they get the credit for what they do. And they don't feel like they get the credit because in large part they don't get the credit because people are assuming that they got where they are because of who they were associated with. And you see this manifest itself, I feel like, in all the stuff that Brian Colangelo allegedly is out here sending, because it's all, I'm not going to get any credit for the Sam Hinkie stuff. I can't get credit for Ben Simmons, therefore I never dog Ben Simmons. I can't get credit for Embiid, so I dog Embiid. Markelle Fultz I could have gotten credit for, but somebody's out there messing it up. So let me explain why it is that it's not our fault that this is happening. But that's all that is it seems like the play of second generation money.
Masai Ujiri, by the way, is sitting at home watching this unfold. Masai Ujiri, who caught a very, I think, significant amount of heat from these burner accounts.
Yes, he did. But
by the way, if you are on the side that is against Masai Ujiri on the level of, is that guy good at his job? You've lost.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So some of this, going back to does he need more allies? Part of the reason he doesn't have allies is because they're not all that deserved. Which is so mean, because I found that his account follows mine. And Brian Colangelo, if you are listening to all of this, please imagine allegedly is appended to everything.
Which account follows you?
His admitted one.
Oh.
The one that never tweets.
The lurker account, though.
Yes.
What's
Phila, at Phila 1234567.
Let me see if it follows me.
8?
I figured he would follow me because I'm not here for this process noise.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like I could have been an ally for him.
You could have been the ally.
I could have been.
You could have been the columnist receiving the leaks.
Yeah, but you know what it sounds like? He's only trying to follow the people that say stuff he don't like. Like, it sounds like he's seeking to hate.
As Kevin Durant,
direct all the curses my way.
YouTube comments once did.
Like, send all the curses my way. Like, that seems to be where Brian Colangelo is on this, which would be a very sick way to go about living your life.
Yeah, putting on a snorkel and then finding the stuff that most angers you.
Yes. Now here's the thing. Will he survive this? Because we don't think he can. have you outlined to come up with a circumstance under which he manages to survive this? Because I feel like this is only the beginning, because we only found out really about like a handful of tweets.
Right. What I've been sensing talking to people is that this will be resolved in a matter of days and not weeks. Right? The draft is coming up, free agency is coming up, so we will get clarity. The legal professionals we talked about earlier will have succeeded in completing their task. But in terms of like how can Bryan Colangelo keep his job, he would have to claim that he knew nothing about the 4 burner accounts that he did not.
That all shut down, by the way, the second that he was notified of the existence of only 2 of them.
And that's the FBI level investigative reporting that Ben Dietrich at The Ringer did.
Yes.
Not telling the Sixers about the 3 accounts and only telling him about Eric Jr. and your own was brilliant. Like, everybody golf claps at that when you talk to them about it. Even people who I think may otherwise not be finding humor in this story have to take off their cap, because what that does is pin Bryan Colangelo into some corner. We don't know who else is in the corner, and his only strategy is to point to that person with him in the corner and say, it was that person.
Yep.
Not me.
Yep. And are you going to do that with your wife? Because now we saying it's your wife.
Allegedly.
Like, that's what we saying. Ain't no allegedly. Streets is saying it. The streets is saying it's your queen.
That is the the favorite in Vegas.
Can you put it on your queen?
I think it certainly changes the definition of what queen might mean to you.
Yeah, like, but can you do that? Here's the thing, though. If your queen was actually doing this herself, she got to jump on the grenade, right? Like what part of chivalry say I got to lose my job because you lost your mind?
Well, but the losing of the mind, if she did it, the losing of the mind is where I don't know where, rational thought enters the equation. Like, yeah, it's her fault, allegedly.
If it's her.
Or remember, there are 2 people in the corner, and both of those people see what the other is doing.
Yes. Now, also, let's keep this in mind, that the phone numbers that people found for these Twitter accounts went to the same one, and it appears to be his wife's phone number. However, the email addresses, from what I'm told for people who checked it early, appears to be Bryan Colangelo. Like, it seems very clearly to be an email address for Bryan Colangelo. So the idea that it's his wife's phone number doesn't really tell me anything.
Also, it's your wife, who seems to know, at the very least, a lot of what you know, and she seems to know a lot about the things that you like to say.
Yes.
So you can challenge our skepticism on this, but I feel like skepticism is the right mode.
Yeah, y'all the same, man. Like y'all are a collective. Like, is all that stuff y'all said in y'all's vows? I'm sure y'all said something about 2 becoming 1 or something like that. Y'all the same. Y'all the same person. Like, how you gonna be like, dog, it wasn't me, man. It was my wife. How you gonna do that?
And even if, let's grant Bryan Colangelo the highly unlikely event that we just described. People end friendships over someone else's wife all the time.
Yes, I've been there.
Can you do your job is the question that the Sixers must ask Bryan Colangelo.
And by the way, wasn't that good at doing his job in the first place, ask most people.
And so is there a convenience there for an ownership group that also isn't quite his ally? Yeah.
I just want to know more of the other stuff that these accounts are tweeting about.
Oh, yeah.
Were they only tweeting about basketball?
Well, we've apparently seen at least one tweet about this, why a Muslim ban shouldn't be called that.
Oh.
There's that one I saw. There's Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, there's that.
Talking about how in Barcelona.
Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union was so disrespectful at some dinner.
Yeah.
Even though Dwayne and Gabby weren't a thing at that time, I don't think.
Right. And it was in response to something unrelated that Gabrielle Union had tweeted about issues related to black people.
Yes. Like, that's the thing. I've talked about this before. I'm going to say it again, man. I have had a long track record. I don't do it so much now, but a long track record of replying to eggs on the Twitter. And my response has always been, y'all don't understand. Like, these eggs, they're people. These are not just all disaffected members of society. Like, it's easy to otherize them and push them off to the fringes. And these accounts were tweeting like those trolls. Like, they were treating like the people that wind up in my mentions. They seem to have been talking about things of similar subject matter and using similarly terrible grammar.
Adam Silver has a Twitter account that has been secret. Roger Goodell's wife has weighed in on Twitter in a parallel way.
Yes.
The former director of the FBI, James Comey, was a lurker on Twitter. Right?
Yep.
Like, well, who else do you... Needless to say, the President of the United States is an active participant in the Twitter community.
Yeah. And again, what that tells you is that there are a lot of people, regular people, who think like the people you think are the crazy people, because the crazy people are very often the regular people. All right, Pablo, are you a Drake guy? Are you into that? Like, I'd never have asked you that question unequivocally, and I should have asked that before I agreed to do a television show with you.
But you felt it. You felt a little bit that I enjoy Drake's music.
You're a millennial.
I'm not his guy.
You're not his guy.
But I'm not like gonna defend Drake at every turn. I have shared in Drake memes, but do I actually enjoy his music? You're damn right I do.
So just tell me this: when you hear Marvin's Room, do you relate to that sort of behavior?
I relate to the desire sometimes to cry.
I mean, like that though.
I should clarify. I'm not into emo Drake.
Okay.
In that way.
Okay. That's important.
I'm into Drake making sort of anthemic.
Yeah, he got some jams.
Catchy jams.
Yeah, he got some jams.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question that Drake got some jams. Drake can rap, and Drake got into a beef with Pusha T. And see, I'm a little bit older than you. Pusha T is more in line with my generation of things. You and Drake down there with the millennials.
The brats, I believe we've begun to call it on our show.
Yeah, it's a lot of brats, man. But, so Pusha T did Infrared and had a few lines about Drake. Drake came back, and Drake was mad dismissive with it. He was just like, I'm above this. And I think for Drake, he's like, I don't understand why you so mad at me. I ain't never done nothing to you. And in return, Pusha T put out the story of Addison, which is one of the most disrespectful things that I've ever heard. He talked about his mom, his daddy, and his greasy granny. He talked about Drake's son. And apparently Pusha T is very much so opposed to the idea of deadbeat dads. Like that really hits him in a very particular way. He encouraged Drake to find love. He encouraged Drake to immerse himself in the love that he had found, although after doing so, he said, what did he say after that, Pablo?
Yuck.
Yes, yuck.
Yuck.
God, that was so disrespectful.
Never have so few syllables been so disrespectful.
That was so disrespectful.
You usually need a second syllable. Yeah. In this case, it was just yuck.
And then he talked about Drake's man 40, who I didn't know. I'd never seen 40, but apparently 40 has multiple sclerosis. And Pusha T asked how much longer he was going to live.
This is where I wanted to take my handkerchief out of my pocket and say, "Sir, have some decency."
Yeah, or just stop the fight. Right? Like, it's
like come on, man.
Did he go that to you?
Who asked for this?
That to you was going too far. That was the place where he went too far.
Yuck should, in a level of just sheer violence, also push me back. But this one, I was like, I don't know his relationship with this dude, but wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Every line was as hurtful as it could possibly be. Got on the fact that his mom wasn't married, which hits people in a kind of personal way. And by the way, that he's like, your mom ain't never got married, but you be kicking it like the dude that don't be marrying your mom. Although Drake started it because Drake brought up Pusha's fiance and acted like that was
and
the
her
thing.
name. Yes.
Yeah, and so then that way, then he talked about his dad wearing Steve Harvey suits. That was hilarious because his dad does stay wearing some ridiculous suits.
Dennis Graham is worth checking out on Instagram if you haven't already, and I hope that you have, because Drake seems to make a little bit more sense, but also Dennis Graham truly had this coming.
Yes.
Like on that, it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Finally.
Yeah, sorry. But Pusha says something else in that. I just forgot about what it was, but it was just like just all the flagrant disrespect, and he implies that he has more on the way. And if you're Drake, like, you got to come back, but at the same time, you don't want to come back, do you?
What could more on the way even mean?
Right. What did you leave out?
What was held back? Because do you think that Pusha T laid a trap? Is
Yes.
this how this played out?
Yes, I do.
Like, take a real light
Yes.
in round 1.
Yes.
Round 2,
Yeah.
you're going to get knocked back a little. And then round 3, you are going to uppercut
Yeah.
this man.
Well, he laid a trap like Jay-Z laid a trap on Nas, right? Because you got to remember the way that plays out. Summer Jam 2001, he does the first verse to Take Over for the first time, and that's like the origin of the phrase Summer Jam screen is the picture of Prodigy in the tutu that he put up at the Summer Jam.
Right.
And then after he did those first couple verses, he then said, ask Nas, he don't want it with Hov. But that was the end of the song at that point. Nas then came out on the Stillmatic freestyle and came at Jay with a little bit, right? He called him the rapper version of Cisco, and all that stuff. He said, we talked about the crew and all that. And then Jay came with the real takeover, and that was crushing. And then Nas later, of course, came with Ether, and that kind of wrapped it up because Jay did Super Ugly. And like, that's the thing. Drake can't have a Super Ugly. Like when Drake comes back, it's got to be super strong. It can't be rushed. It can't be anything like that. But what do you come back with after that?
I feel like Drake also hires legal professionals to investigate Pusha T.
He has to.
You need opposition research.
Well, that's what money does. That's what having money is, right? To call a PI so you can write your diss record.
I feel like you need to have some sort of fixer who works in the underworld of some sort to, answer the question that I assume Pusha T asked about Drake. What's the worst stuff that exists about this guy?
But did he get the worst, although he did get the blackface picture?
I mean, we skipped over the thing.
Yeah, that's what it was, the blackface picture. That's the body blows that Push put on him was that I forget that the blackface picture came up. Drake got hit so hard in the battle that he had to put out a statement.
I thought first that it was photoshopped. I did not know that was a real photo. And then when the Instagram post is your notes app,
yes,
you have lost.
Well, also, I feel like the problem with the picture is not even so much. All right, let me think of a way to put it. Because he says to him and his partner, we're trying to bring attention to the difficulties of black actors finding roles. And look, maybe Drake just ain't that great of an actor. It's a long step to I can't get no role to let's do some blackface protests, right? But the second that you put the blackface on and none of you thought to yourselves, I don't think this is a good idea. Right? Because at some point, no matter what it is that you're doing, at some point that picture was going to emerge without context. And if the picture emerges without context, there is no context that you're going to be able to give after the fact. Unless it is, I was trying out for a revival of Bamboozle. Right? Like, otherwise, there's no explanation you could possibly give that's going to do the job. And now he's going to have to wear that picture for the rest of his life. No matter what his story is on what it was, he's going to have to wear that for the rest of his life and be like, but no, me and my man from the Sudan. Yeah, well, y'all wear that in the Sudan and let me know how that work out.
And that will be deployed in a battle in which the topic that is Drake, like, a traitor to our cause.
Well, that was
is Drake black enough,
yes,
right?
that was the other part, because Push hit him on something that I'm sure Drake is sensitive about in real life, is the legitimacy of his blackness.
That's a massive vulnerability. So to produce, imagine being Pusha T. Your legal professionals come back into the room, and they say, sir, you're not going to believe what we found. Like, those guys, I hope, got a bonus.
Right. Like, blackface photos so exceed any agreement that they had on what the work was that they were supposed to do.
If you did some David Blaine stuff to Pusha T and you said, write down on a piece of paper what you dream of existing in this war with Drake, he would not have the audacity to write down Drake in blackface.
No. And not just like kind of blackface, with the red lips and the white outline too. Like, it was the full on blackface.
Not college frat bro blackface.
Right. Not the Cool Runnings bobsled team for Halloween. No, that's not what this was. This was full on blackface. And Drake tried to explain, poor guy, because it sounds like, I mean, what he did was a bad idea. I don't think he meant any harm, but it sounds like it was just a horrible idea. Don't matter now, dog. You got to wear that forever.
Drake is so good at making content And at the time, I think that probably felt like an avant-garde, ambitious thing. There is some creativity to it. That's how I imagine Drake feels about it. And then it gets used like this.
Yes.
It gets judo moved.
Yes.
You have been flipped. You have lost your wallet. Your glasses have shattered. And Pusha T has you in some sort of leg lock.
Yes. And the thing about Drake is Drake has always been so good at shaking off the punches. Like all the things that you would want to say. Like the reason that Meek couldn't win a battle against Drake. Meek gonna be like, yeah, I could beat you up. Okay, we know that. Yeah, I'm gonna pull my gun on you. Okay, we know that. Okay, well, you soft. You're from Canada. Okay, we know that. Like, he can shake off any punch that anybody offers him, and then Pusha T grabbed him by the throat and repeatedly punched him in the stomach.
Pusha T out-contented Drake.
Yeah, strategized Drake.
Is the master of content, a master of content, and Pusha T out-strategized him.
He outmoved him. He outmoved him because what Drake can't replicate in this battle is Drake doesn't hate Pusha T 25% as much as Pusha T hates him. Pusha T don't even know him and hates him.
Pusha T, like, it does remind me of like a method actor. Like, I don't know if you truly believe this, but I know that you believe it right now.
He hates that dude. He hates that dude. And has anyone ever sound more disdainful than he did when he's like, you are hiding a child? And when he called him a deadbeat, I was like, oh my God, I've never heard you, like, this anger is real. Like, I listen to Pusha T, like, when you listen to Runaway and stuff like that, right? Like, the kind of, like, disrespect toward women that Pusha T is offering, it doesn't really sound sincere. Like, he sounds like a dude that's faking it because he's been hurt before. Like, if you go listen to, like, to the stuff that he has, like, they're talking about women on the Kanye type stuff, he really does, he doesn't sound like he's all the way in it and talking about, like, disposing of these women and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't seem to really buy it. He means what he says about deadbeat dads.
This would have been vicious in an email.
Yes.
You could have slipped me a piece of paper. This didn't need to come in this form. You've weaponized this to its maximum capacity.
He also said that my skin is black and then scratched in, your skin is yellow. Like, he went, like the thing about Ether was, I don't think Ether's that great, but Jay-Z thought Ether was incredibly painful because all of it was designed to hurt Jay-Z as much as possible. That's what this one was. I'm going to hurt you in every place I can where you are vulnerable.
Meanwhile, Adidas. Yeah. Rolls into work. The executives are like, yeah. What should we tell our employees?
Yeah, Push has already messed up the Adidas rollout. When he said the boy deserved better than an Adidas press run, damn, dog. Damn.
Pusha T, it does feel like he is the superstar. He is the alpha dog who is defending his turf. It fails the language of sports, but it's almost perfect in that way. This is the clash of egos in a way that, this is in excess of like sneaker war stuff.
But you ain't got to go to the language of sports, man. This is the language of life. Your dad is not going to lose a fight to you. Like, this is a fight that this dude is not losing to some 31-year-old. Like in the end, this is a generation wars, but he's not losing the fight to this 31-year-old, right? And that's part of what it was, is that Pusha said some disrespectful stuff to the young fella. The young fella, who, by the way, now is like 30 years old, right? He's feeling himself like a grown man. He's like, yo, I ain't got to take this no more. And so he came back with a fire. Like, Duppy is fire.
I played it on repeat. Yeah. And enjoyed it as a song.
Yes. Like, he came back with heat. He's like, yeah, I got this. And his pops just looked at him and then just beat the he out of him. He just threw him through the bedroom wall, bro. Like that, like that's all it was like. It was like Drake finally cussed out his dad and then went in the room and slammed the door and locked it. He's like, yeah, the door's locked. I'm fine. Then next thing you know, boom, Pusha T, Hillbilly Jim kicked that door on the ground and you laying in bed like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then Push just rolled up and repeatedly punched him in the stomach. By the way, the question we started with was how far is too far, and clearly the answer for both of us is whatever. Just keep it coming. All right, guys. June 4th, me and Pablo have a television show that is coming out.
Yes.
Pablo, what is the name of the television show?
The name of the television show is High Noon, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Do people realize that this conversation that we are having right now is really the first time that anyone has actually talked about this television show publicly?
It's a remarkable opportunity to deliver what we have waited a year or so to deliver.
Trying to think of like what it is that we can tell them about what this television show is. And I feel like if they've been listening to this podcast, they kind of get a handle on what this television show is. We're just going to be out here kicking it.
I think if you want to look at it as a student of sports television, there are things that you will be entertained by and find interesting and clever. But mostly, we approach it like we are talking to each other for an hour on live television.
And I'll also say that if you view yourself as a student of sports television, you got a problem.
Yeah, that's an interesting field of study.
Yeah, like if that's a part of your personality or what's inside you, man, go be a student of something else. Like I would just make that suggestion to you that you should probably dedicate your studies to something that's a little bit stronger, a little bit better. But yeah, the show's called High Noon. Is going to be on at noon Eastern.
We will take the handoff of audience from Stephen A. and Max and Molly and sometimes Will Kane.
Yes.
And we will present to them our vision for a better America.
Yeah, and that's actually maybe the most interesting thing about this, by the way, is like the idea of this, like that's the run into what it is that we're doing. And I think it'll be fun for me at least because I got so many people who think I am like some replication of Stephen A. Smith. And I think you'll see now we're different people.
And as people who have been in the same room as Stephen A., who have talked to Stephen A., like, we respect him so much.
Yes, we do.
We would not dare presume that we are on that man's level. We're not trying to say that.
No, but I'm also just a different human. Like, just a different person. Like for me, personally, that's kind of one of the cooler things that's going to evolve out of this is like maybe, just maybe, having Stephen A. on television immediately before me and then me coming on after will give you an opportunity to see that now I'm just black. Like that's all this
that
is.
We're not all just the same person with the same set of ideas, both sports-wise and otherwise.
Yeah, now, Gabe just mentioned this. You want to tell the story again about how this show came together? I don't find that story as interesting as other people do, but people like to hear it. Like, we're cool, and then we, like, stay cool.
Basically, we independently expressed the desire to have a television show with the other person. This grew out of us being friends. When I would go do Dan's radio show on HQ in Miami, I would always come and hang out with you, and turned out that we enjoyed talking to each other.
Yeah.
Other people agreed.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, like there we go. Like it's a cool, I guess that's supposed to be a cool story in that manner. Just because like you're cool with somebody and you get to do a television show, boom, there you go. Because that's one thing I think that will help us in doing this TV show. Like I feel like I can talk about this is when you are starting a new television show very often, like me and Dan, when we started that television show, I met Dan what amounts to one time before that. And then we try to figure out how to do a television show together and how to work together and like basically how to be friends with each other, all of those things while the television show is on the air.
Yeah.
Like I agreed to do Highly Questionable on a Thursday. I agreed to do that show on May the 9th, 2013. My first day was Monday, May the 13th.
Wow.
Of that show. Right. That's different. So, like, we had the advantage in doing this in that we already know each other. Like, I know who the person is that I'm talking to on the side. I got a general idea about how you think about these things. We have a conversational rhythm of our own that makes life a whole lot easier in trying to, like, bring it to television.
And we have Eric Rydholm.
That helps.
Who is our friend. Who is our real friend. And so he is, in my opinion, the guy I would most want, and perhaps the only person I would want to be the producer, the executive producer of our show.
Well, also for people who don't know who Eric is the creator of PTI. Eric oversees Around the Horn, Highly Questionable. He did Deez and Mero for a couple of years. Eric is the best person in the game at doing this putting together television show thing.
He's made it such that we can say what we just said and actually mean it. Right? This is actually a show born out of friendship. It is actually a show about who we are authentically as people and what we are curious about and interested in. But it is also something that is designed to talk about sports in a way that can be successful on ESPN1. Right? So how you process us, I feel like we are going to be doing a show that we authentically have fun doing. And everything else, we trust in the people who we work with.
Yeah, because like when I was operating with Highly Questionable, was like, if we kick it and we're having fun, that'll come across. Like,
that's all I care about.
Yeah, that'll be the win.
That's all
is
I
that
care about.
Like if we are enjoying what it is, that'll come across. Like the knowledge and stuff like that, yeah, we got you on that. That'll be taken care of. But it's going to be a matter of whether or not we can enjoy ourselves. And that's why I will say, Pablo, just to let the audience know, some of them have been probably wondering a little bit. Don't worry, I get some of them syllables out of Pablo. Just give me a little time. I'll knock some of those syllables off. That's part of my job.
And I feel like on this podcast, I have proved an ability to be conversant in the language of rap beef.
Yes. Although I do think you added some syllables to make that point.
I did.
But this is the thing. I've talked to people about this before, and we're doing Dan's show. I get frustrated with him and all the things about the syllables and stuff like that because I feel like they're kind of putting you in a bad place. Like for what their situation is, that becomes something that is fun to objectify. But like. You're fun people, you're good people, and that's what this is like going to be, even if you're a little wordy.
I am wordy. Period.
Well done.
I'm learning.
There you go. Like, I have no question about the effectiveness of what this is going to be. Like, how many of y'all decide to watch it? I don't really have any say-so on that. But I do feel like for the people who do make the decision to watch this, that this is going to be a good time and it's going to be a good show to watch.
We're going to enjoy ourselves. If you believe that would be fun to watch, I think you will do the same.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's a good chance that you'll keep watching and then you'll hate.
Yeah, I'm not too worried, man.
Now, tell me this. If someone had gone and told 18-year-old you that one day you would have a television show, what would 18-year-old you have said in response?
I don't believe you. I don't believe you, future me. I'm a person who has been studying in libraries for the LSAT to be a lawyer, to be a academically oriented person in some way.
Hold on, you were doing that at 18?
I mean, when I get to freshman year of college.
You already started studying for the LSAT your freshman year of college?
Oh, I didn't start studying for it, but it was on my hypothetical mood board, absolutely. Like, that was something that I was aware that I was going to have to do. I didn't start studying for it until, like, junior year. But I knew that if I wanted to be a lawyer, this was the path.
Wow.
I was and remain deep inside like that.
We are such an odd couple in that respect.
No, and that's what people are gonna, I think, realize. But what I am so grateful for, Bomani Jones, is the fact that I did terribly on my LSAT.
Oh, really? Well, did you do terribly or did you do terribly relative to your surroundings?
To reveal the answer would show that I am being a total jerk about it. But I did not make myself happy. I didn't please my own high standards for myself. And so I spent another year, and you know what I did? I took the LSAT again.
No.
I took it twice. And then the next day, I went to work for Sports Illustrated as a fact checker and a reporter at the magazine. And I just never left. And so when you come back to 18-year-old me, I never saw this in this way, but I am a case study in the upside of what you might consider for yourself as failure.
How'd the second LSAT go?
I did pretty well. I spent so many days, hours in the library, man. So many. So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that this is my life, that I never did any of that.
And this is such a metaphor, because I failed out of graduate school and turned into this, but this is really such a metaphor for things because I'm hearing about your meticulous course in prep of study. And what is the thing I've spent more time telling you and preparing for our television show than anything else?
You do not need to do that.
Yes, stop that. Trust yourself. You'll be good.
We did a rehearsal yesterday.
You had a laptop up for the podcast.
Oh, I wasn't looking at it, though.
Okay.
This podcast, I didn't need the laptop for.
Yeah, I would hope.
But in the mornings, yeah, when we get to work, I am from the Tony Kornheiser school of longhand writing of the things you want to say, and you don't work like that.
No.
And I admire that about you, but I am now being weaned off of that process, and early returns in our time spent rehearsing this TV show that you are correct.
Yeah. Ain't nobody listening that close.
The stuff that we loved is the stuff that is oftentimes coming off of a mistake.
Yeah, just roll with it, man.
It's just so fun. I mean, I'm excited to go to work.
Yeah, we're going to do that now. We've been sending out these pictures of us when we were younger to promote the show. That's what's passed for a promotional campaign. Finally, we're getting a couple pictures that are us from college, and that allows the answer to the question I think a dude named Alfred asked in my Twitter comments one day, which is, when are these pictures going to improve for Pablo? I feel like they've gotten better with these last couple.
Yeah, they get better, but then there's a dip in the middle there where it gets worse, and then it gets better again. And I think that brings us to today.
Well, the thing for me is I have no gauge on how old you are in most of those pictures.
Well, the funny thing about talking to Eric about these photos and figuring out how do we pair them, right? What ages are each of these people? I'm also terrible at that. I have no idea. I don't know how old I guess I don't know how old children are in general, let alone teenagers.
Well, I know how old I am in those pictures, and I admit that I am pretty good at guessing how old people look if they are black. I can guess black people's ages. Once we start going across racial lines, it gets a little tricky, and sometimes that trickiness that we get to can make people very, very offended because I have guessed their ages, and they have... Yeah, they're not that old. That can happen. And I admit, my Asian brothers, I got no idea where to begin.
No. I can speak from familial experience. Yeah, some people's skin ages better than others. And some people, they've seen enough of those other people to know the difference.
Me and my homeboys, we got a Vietnamese partner in Durham. And my man's known him for like 20 years. He won't tell us how old he is, and we can't figure it out. We have no idea. We won't know it until it's on his funeral program.
Right. Is this like an Orlando Hernandez El Duque scenario, or what are we talking about?
We don't know. That's the thing. We think it's like an El Duque situation, but we don't know.
Because it could be that situation where that, like, 30-year-old guy enrolled in high school again to play basketball?
Yes, we don't.
That's also on the table?
We don't know, and he'll tell us stories, and sometimes the story will go back to like 84 or something like that, and you're like, okay, so how old were you then? And he knows that we're trying to figure it out, so he'll never tell us. We have no idea how old he is. And basically, I say that to say I look at your pictures, and I'm in a similar place, even though you are not from Vietnam.
But I am really good at telling the differences between Asian countries based on, profiling faces.
Yeah, I'm not so great at that. I feel like I do okay by the fact that I can separate like Korean, Japanese, and Chinese names.
That's good.
I can do that.
That's on the upper end of the spectrum of Asian fluency.
Yes.
But you know what? As we do this show together, you will get better at that too.
Maybe. And I'll know who every Filipino is in the United States because you have a running tally of every Filipino in the United States of America.
But I do omit some based on how they're doing in the Filipino stock market on that given day.
I didn't know that.
So like Jordan Clarkson is half.
Yeah.
I kind of stopped claiming him. Yeah, once LeBron started passive-aggressively referring to him.
If the Warriors win, are you going to try to restart the campaign for JaVale McGee's Filipino citizenship?
Absolutely.
Which did happen, just so you guys know.
Well, what happened was he never made it over to the country because he got hurt.
Yes.
But the bill was introduced into Congress and would be approved, and I can say that with great confidence because Andre Blatch had a similar bill introduced, and that was resoundingly passed into law.
So Andre Blatch is Filipino.
He's on the national team. But he's not in any way biologically, genetically.
He has a Filipino passport. Did they give you a Filipino passport when you do this?
Oh, absolutely.
So he has a Filipino, Andre Blatch.
Andre Blatch, I assume, can run for government now.
He has to, right?
I mean, Manny Pacquiao was both a congressman and a senator. Like, the Philippines is a place that loves sports, such that they even knew who Andre Blatch was.
Right. Right. We've just got this 6'9" dude who showed up from America. No, he's not a GI, right? He just showed up. And they're like, yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah, we want him. And we are not at all deterred by the fact that he is otherwise a living meme in your country.
Yes, that is it.
Okay. And so JaVale McGee is of that tradition. And yeah, I have one of my cousins is working with the national team of the Philippines, for the next qualifying. And, Andre Blatch is back.
You learn something new every day.
He is back.
Now to remind the world, high noon, 9 a.m. Pacific starts June the 4th. That is Monday. June the 4th. That is Monday. It is me. It is Pablo. We'll be on television. And hopefully Pablo will dress like a grown up for our first television show.
Tune in and find out.
I just need you to look like you care. By the way, before I let you go, did you know we're starting the Right Time Book Club?
Ooh.
We're going to start the Right Time Book Club. And so we're the last Tuesday of every month, we're going to do the book club. And I've decided that the first book don't have to be new necessarily. I'm going to go with the oldie but goodie because I think there are people who are familiar with the franchise who may not have read the book. And I think the book could be like literally like a life changer for them in understanding America. And that is Bud Bissinger's Friday Night Lights, which is quite possibly might be the best book I've ever read. It is legitimately that good, but I think that people think of it as a movie. If you read it, I think it takes on a different tenor. So for those of you who had, I think it's worth revisiting. For those of you who have not, let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll get this thing started.
Buzz Bissinger is a fascinating person.
He is.
I also haven't read the book.
You have not read the book?
No.
I've
read excerpts from the book.
No, I really think you should do it all.
No,
the way.
it has been hailed as a great book by people that I respect enough, where I don't say that proudly.
Yeah, no, but I highly recommend it. All right, thank you guys for listening to us here on The Right Time. We do this thing twice a week. My man Gabe Bassain handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you. Now, next week, I will not be on because we're getting the TV show started. Gabe's got vacation. We got a lot going on, so we will not be on next week. We will be back the week after that. Remember, check us out on the ESPN app. Subscribe at Apple Podcasts. Rate us, review us. We like 5 stars. You give us 4 stars. You're really just being a hater, and nobody likes a hater. So thank you to Pablo Torre for joining us on this episode, and I will talk to you guys in about a week. Take it easy.
Thanks for checking out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Right Time
with Bomani Jones.